Just trying to fix the camera there. What is going on, Movie Meals? Another live stream. I'm going to do this every week. I get it. If nobody watches, that's fine. It then becomes a fun discussion little podcast I get to do where I can just talk about the things I like. One of those being is Star Wars. I didn't wear a Star Wars shirt today or a Friends one, mainly because my Star Wars shirts are dirty. But I do want to... Let's see, we're just going to pull the chat up so that way I can see if somebody does show up. But anyway, I really just want to talk about this Duel of the Fates script that's been going around. Because I think it's incredibly interesting and fascinating, and I just want to see or discuss that and finally get my thoughts out for Star Wars. So I'm going to just start with this. Sorry, I gotta send some here real fast. So I'm just gonna start my thoughts on the script. So the script was leaked by Robert Meyer Burnett, or not leaked, but he came out on his show Robservations, where he just talked about how he's worked in Hollywood a long time. He's a critic I followed for a long time, or maybe not a critic, but a movie personality that I found through the Schmodown. Who I've chosen to follow. I listen to his show sometimes. I try to bounce around to a lot of shows periodically, and I like his show. I like him. I think seems like a very cool guy. And he talked about how in Hollywood it's easy to get scripts. It's just easy. If a script is, especially for a movie not made, it's easy to get scripts. So I wanted to. When I heard that he had read the Colin Trevorrow script, or he says read, but he read a script, I was immediately intrigued and interested, because I'm a massive Star Wars fan. And go check out my review of Rise of Skywalker if you're not sure, or where you're curious where I stand on Rise of Skywalker. I do like the film. I've seen it 4 times. And I just don't love it. It wasn't Endgame for me, which it had the potential to be. It wasn't this giant finale that I think we deserved. And I think there's a lot of problems with it. I think Palpatine is a problem. There's no explanation in him coming back, and lots of different things. The kiss is unearned, things like that. There's going to be spoilers. I don't know why you're watching this video if there's no spoilers, because I've already spoiled Rise of Skywalker, so just be prepared. But anyway, so... I listened to his video. They're each about 2 hours. There is a little bit where it's him doing his own show and not necessarily talking as much about the actual script. And remember, guys, please feel free to leave comments and questions throughout off topic. That's fine. I don't have to talk about this. But so I watched his videos, got the full kind of context of everything, and I wanted to kind of wait. I wanted to sit on it before I just rushed to make a video like a lot of other people did, because I wanted to be fully informed. I wanted time to think about it. And my conclusion is Colin Trevorrow would have made an incredible movie, I think, from a script basis. And people who, I've made films. I went to film school for a little bit before I decided to switch into teaching, but I understand filmmaking. I've been a part of sets. I've on a much smaller scale, but I've been a part of some decent productions. Acted in them, as well as assisted on the crew, and so I get filmmaking. And I think when it comes down to a script, you can have a great script and it can be ruined by the edit and the direction and things like that. But you got to start with a solid script. Plenty of scripts get made that aren't good, but you gotta have a solid script. Reading the script for Rise of Skywalker makes me so interested in what maybe made them greenlight it, unless the rumors are true. Some of those Reddit rumors that Big Bob Iger and a bunch of people had too many hands in that and demanded too many things, where JJ was kind of forced to make the movie they wanted. But anyway, back to Colin. So the report was, when they had creative differences, that Colin's script was a little too inside baseball. It was a little too Star Wars, I guess. It was a little too much, which I don't think, from reading it, is true at all. I think it's very much Star Wars, or from hearing about what the script is, I think it sounds like there was a lot of good Star Wars in it. And that really excites me as a fan to hear this stuff. He kind of was going to go in a direction where Kylo's the big bad. And I really dug that. That's what I wanted out of Rise of Skywalker. I was kind of okay with the redemption, but the redemption and the way they did it, I don't hate in Rise of Skywalker at all. I think the kiss is unearned. That's the biggest problem I have. It's not him saving her. It's the kiss. It puts a big asterisk on a great arc, I think. The best, maybe the best arc of the trilogy, of this new trilogy. And he... in Colin Trevorrow's script, he goes hunting and he finds a holocron. Again, we don't need a Sith Wayfinder. I know there are fans who are okay with it and they like it and they champion that a Sith Wayfinder is okay. I'm still a big part that all you have to do is say it's a holocron. It has information about Sith or Jedi. That's what a holocron is. It doesn't have to be a hologram. It doesn't have to be, it can be a map. It can be whatever it is, because that's what a holocron is. And I really like the idea of him just doing a holocron, and he does that in Colin's script. He has a holocron, Kylo finds it, it's a Palpatine who's telling Vader to go find his master, which is not Plagueis, but another master. He's kind of old, he's ancient, he's more like the Bendu from the Rebels. He's not really light or dark, but knows the dark side very well. Kind of the dark version of the Bendu. So he tells Kylo he can train him, and all this stuff happens. There's stuff where Kylo's mask gets destroyed, and the Emperor, through the holocron, which is awesome, uses the Force lightning and ruins his face. He ends up melding Mandalorian armor into his face. This is before The Mandalorian came out, too. This was written in 2016. And to me, that's awesome. I think that's great use of Rebels and Clone Wars and things that have come before, and shows that Colin's a fan. And Daisy Ridley seems to go in a great direction as this, as well as they don't sideline Rose. It sounds like his idea was that Rose was going to be a big part of the script, and that Rose was going to go off on these different adventures, and they were going to have a lot of... There was quippy moments with C-3PO and R2-D2 where BB-8 got chances to shine, where Poe and Rey do have a relationship, which a lot of people, after seeing Ryan's film, episode 8, that they said, no, there's a little bit of a flirt going on at the very end. To me, I could see both ways. I could see where it's just Poe being Poe, because he has demonstrated that he is that kind of person, the way he acts, that it can come across easy as flirting. I think that's a big reason why the Finn and Poe stuff happened. And him and Daisy Ridley kind of start this relationship, and throughout Colin's script, there's some incredible moments where Daisy Ridley is no one, and Poe confesses love to her and all this different stuff, where Poe and Daisy do kind of form this relationship, but it's strong. It didn't read forced the way Robert Meyer Burnett kind of talked about it, and I really liked that. I liked that Rey is no one. And I didn't hate the idea of Rey being a Palpatine. I hate the way it's executed. I think it's weird. I think it's a weird thing to say. You can just say you're my granddaughter without being like, you're a Palpatine. It comes across weird. It feels like it's on the nose of, you have to be somebody, so this is what we've decided. And I think the idea of Rey being no one in Colin's script is amazing, because it shows that the Force will correct itself as well. And also, side tangent, the name. I mean, look at my title of my video, Duel of the Fates. Are you kidding me? And I love the title for Rise of Skywalker. I actually think it's a very good title. But you start talking about bringing Duel of the Fates in. That's what I like. That is what I like. I think that's a really cool title, and because it plays along with Duel of the Fates, these two characters with Kylo and Rey who have been enemies the last two movies, and they literally have duel, and it's their fate to go in this direction. Kylo does have a redemption. I like that. There's a lot of stuff. JJ definitely kept the life force thing, which I don't think JJ executes very well. Where it read that Colin that he understood it, where it was sucking life force energy out of things, and that was what Kylo wanted to do was destroy people in that way. And I really liked that stuff. I thought that stuff really worked. The little bit of things of the script maybe I didn't love is the Bendu Master, just because of the way it was kind of quick and Kylo kind of kills him in that script. But I like that a lot more than, because we get explanation. It makes sense. He's his master. Instead of Palpatine just saying, no, I'm on pathway to many abilities, which we've gotten an explanation in a visual dictionary, which is absurd. You shouldn't have to get an explanation in a visual dictionary. You should be able to put that in your film. If it's your big bad, you should get that in the film. And it also makes no sense. The visual dictionary didn't answer any questions either. It just kind of raised more eyebrows. And Colin's script, the Duel of the Fates title, I think is really, really great. And the things that JJ kept, I really like. I mean, I do like the new characters in Rise of Skywalker. I like Janna and I like Zori. Zori and Janna are not used very well. Janna is kind of thrown in at the end. I like the idea of the Stormtroopers, and I like that JJ took that from Colin, and then JJ said, this is the way I'm going to do it, and Colin's way on the page sounded a lot better. That there were many Stormtroopers who said, no, this is not okay, and that instead of Finn kind of having a fling with one, where it shows up very late in the movie, it's kind of built up, and Finn kind of leads a whole army of them, and I like that. I like going to Coruscant. I like all the stuff with C-3PO and R2-D2 where there's a lot of these different jokes. I think going back to Coruscant is great. I don't think that's too inside baseball. Are you kidding me? JJ talked about how he was bringing all the movies to a close. All the movies didn't need to be brought to a close, but he didn't do anything for the prequels. He didn't actually really do much for the original trilogy either. I mean, what do we get from the prequels? Pretty much nothing. You get Mustafar that's not explained or shown. We could have had a really cool scene where he did go to Vader's castle. Instead, he's in the forest that has become of Mustafar. And Mustafar is different. For those who don't know, Mustafar in a virtual reality experience does go through kind of a metamorphosis and a change. And I like that stuff. I like that Mustafar as a planet. I think that's all really neat. I think it's cool. I like we go back to it, but nobody knows. You don't know until you find out later in JJ's film, where Ryan has him, or Colin has him going to Vader's castle. And I think that's awesome. Let's explore the ruins. Vader's castle makes sense. It's still standing. Where the Death Star, sorry, I had to get rid of that. The Death Star doesn't really make sense why there's such giant chunks in that type of explosion left, and that some things are still intact. It just didn't make as much sense. And I just think the way Colin handled it, that brings the prequels back in a good way. It says, let's bring them back and pay homage to them. And I like the Coruscant, where we're getting to see the poor, and that they lead a poor uprising, that the poor will fight, that if you rally the people, they will fight. I think that's great. This stuff where you bring in the rebels and this kind of world in between worlds of the Force, where time isn't really there, I think is incredible. I think that fight between Kylo and Rey on the page sounds amazing. The fights they have. The Knights of Ren in this movie were supposed to wield lightsabers and do all this. We do have the origin of the Knights of Ren in the comics, where Luke and him meet the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren are not trained, or they weren't Luke's students, kind of like Ryan Johnson alludes to, and that Kylo Ren beats the leader, becomes the leader of the rest. JJ didn't use them effectively at all. He made a big deal of them. Ryan never did in his movie, but JJ did make a big deal and didn't make them interesting at all. They're throwaway characters who are uninteresting. And it sounds like Colin Trevorrow would have made a very interesting use of them. There were some big battles. They had sabers. That's what we wanted to see. Make them Inquisitors. That's what you should do, is make them a version of an Inquisitor. And we didn't get that. But Colin wrote a really cool idea. And there was a lot with Carrie Fisher and Lando, with her going around to convince planets. I think all that is awesome. I love all of it. And if Colin's stance was, Colin Trevorrow may have well left the project because he said, I can't make this movie without Princess Leia. I'm not going to rewrite my script. I need Princess Leia in some form. And maybe he would have said, I know the family feels a certain way maybe or whatnot, and he may have wanted to recast. And I would have been okay with the recasting, actually. And I know it's sacrilege to say, I don't think Carrie Fisher, again, somebody I don't know, never met, you know, of course some nerd in his basement doesn't know Carrie Fisher, but from a lot of the interviews I've seen and things I've heard from people in Hollywood, reading things, I just, if a movie's going to suffer and all they need to do is recast, I don't think Carrie Fisher was the type to stand her ground and say, no, it's me or the highway. I just don't think she would have done that. Because I don't like the footage that's used. I think it's very jarring. And I think it's very jarring when you can tell it's a body double. I do like the way she's used with saying Ben's name for the energy and it ends up draining her. I like the forced Skype stuff that JJ uses, which Colin does not have really. Which I'm okay with. I like expanding it. I would have been okay not expanding it because I like the idea that in the last movie, Rey literally shuts the door on him. I always thought that was great. But I think maybe Colin said, I have to have Carrie Fisher. I don't have other ways to do this. And I think that could be a big reason why he left the project, or the reason that he was let go of the project. And bringing JJ back at the end of the day ended up becoming a mistake. And I am curious, because we'll never know the truth to this, but did JJ seek it out? Did they come to him, did they just offer it first, and he said, no, I do want to come back, because I didn't like the movie before, and I want to come back. What would have happened if he had said no? Would have been incredibly interesting to get somebody else in there, and who they would have gotten. Maybe a Taika Waititi earlier than these early reports. Who knows what they would have ended up doing. But I really like the ideas Colin had. I think they're incredibly interesting. I like that he doesn't throw Rose to the side. I like that Finn kind of gets more development instead of just whining about Rey the whole time, which he just kind of does in all three movies. He just still kind of does the same thing. I like the general stuff. There's a great moment where Kylo and Rey, where Kylo does end up kind of getting redeemed and saving Rey and dying. I think I like that. I like that there's no kiss. I like that that Rey is more interested in Poe, and the way they have their kiss I think is very interesting in Colin's script, where he is begging her to let him stay and all this stuff and she says, no, I'm no one, I'm important, and when he's kind of frozen, or she's trying to use the Force to get him to go back to the base, and he's standing his ground and resisting until she kisses him. I think that it's strong and it's powerful, and I think it works. I think some people could look at that, depending on how it would have been put on screen, that it became with a different argument, but I don't think it was written that way, and I don't think it would have been executed that way. But I think this movie would have been awesome. And I think Colin made a really great script, and sadly the passing of Carrie Fisher probably played a massive role in why he'd never made his movie. But I think it would have been really amazing, and I think he would have made a better movie than what we got, and I don't hate the movie we got. I know I probably sound like I do, but I really don't hate the movie we got at all. Welcome, Nick. Of course, he's the only one in here, but that's all right. We've just been talking about the Duel of the Fates script that Colin Trevorrow was rumored to, or was supposed to be making before Rise of Skywalker. I do know my brother here in the chat does hate Rise of Skywalker. I do not hate it. I have seen it 4 times, and yeah, the leaked script is pretty cool, and I think there's a lot of great stuff in there that I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. Where man, there's a lot of interesting stuff. They handle Rose better. He handles Rey better. I think he handles Poe better. And I like the way Poe's used in this one. I like some of the backstory we get with Poe. It goes a little bit against some of the backstory we get with Poe in the books and the comics. Again, JJ doesn't pay attention to that. Sounds like Colin did in his script. Sounds like he did understand kind of the inside baseball stuff. And I liked that. Uh, the Rise of Skywalker was awesome. I don't care what anybody says. Well, welcome, Black Irish. Is that what the name is? Black Irish? Yeah, yeah. Well, welcome. Hey, I'm glad you love the movie. I love that. That's amazing. You have to just, you got to love what you love. And I don't hate the movie. Like my brother is not a big fan of it. He does not like it. I don't hate the movie. There's a lot I really like when Lando and the people show up. I get chills when that happens. I love the Force Ghost talking to Rey. And that's another thing in Colin's script that I love. That Luke does haunt both Kylo and assists and trains Rey still in the Force. I think that's awesome. I think it plays off of 8, and I think it works so well where we also get Obi-Wan and Yoda assisting Rey in like a real prominent way. I think that's a missed opportunity that we only got the voices. And again, I love the voices. I think it's a great moment, that moment, until she gives the cheesy line of, I'm all the Jedi. I do think that's a little bit cheesy, but overall I think the movie is okay, but I think Colin would have handled some of that stuff a lot better from what this script is saying. And I really liked, I really liked the script. After watching the videos, really diving into what Robert had read, again, a guy in Hollywood, I think you should trust a guy like this. I don't think he's making it up. I think he got an opportunity to share it, and he was, not only would it help his channel, but it's information I think people want to know. And heck, if you're Colin Trevorrow, leak this script. Your movie, the movie you were supposed to make that JJ made is not loved by everybody. I know the audience score in Rotten Tomatoes is high, much higher than the actual tomato meter, that the critics are saying they do not love this movie. They think it's just okay. I do think most fans think it's okay. I do think there are people like Black Irish in here who love the movie. I think there's a big group that love it. I think the majority people think it's just okay. Even going and seeing it a fourth time, I still hear a lot of groans in a lot of the scenes. A lot of the jokes don't work as well as they do in The Force Awakens, where there's a lot of laughter. And it's okay to love the movie, and please do love the movie if you love it so much. But heck, Colin might have leaked his own script and said, hey, I'm going to put this out there, send this to a couple people we'll make videos on it or talk about it, or heck, he may know Robert Meyer Burnett, and Robert is just keeping that secret, and he said, hey, will you talk about this on your YouTube channel because I want this out there. That is also very possible, and I think that it would make sense when the movie's getting a little bit of pushback. It has made a lot of money. It is a success as a film, but I think it's really interesting to see if or I lost my train of thought there. But yes, Colin definitely might have leaked it. It'd be interesting to know if he did. To know all the behind the scenes stuff would be really cool. We never will, which I just, if I could go and sit in all these meetings with Kathleen Kennedy and be a fly on the wall to hear what those conversations would have been like, I'd give a lot for that, because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. And guys, please, if you got a comment, please comment below in the chat, because I'd love to answer any questions about anything you want to talk about. It does not have to be Star Wars related. We can talk Marvel, we can talk other movies, we can talk Oscars, we can talk DC, can talk anime, can talk television, whatever you guys want, just throw in the chat. If not, I'll ramble all the live long day about the script, because I do think it's really interesting. I think it's really a fantastic script. I would have loved to have seen it because it's different, and it challenged a little bit, and it paid homage, I think, in the correct ways. Going to Coruscant, I really love. I think Coruscant is one of the coolest planets, this giant kind of sky building, and to see the actual bottom of that, to see the pore, like at the actual base of that planet, would have been very interesting. A lot of cool Jedi Temple stuff in this script, a lot of cool, the holocron, bringing that in is awesome. Vader's used in a great way. There's a scene where Kylo fights Vader, and Vader beats him bad, whoops him puts him to the ground in a vision kind of similar to what Luke has in Return of the Jedi. And I like the vision Rey has until the demon teeth. I think it's really cool until the teeth, and I think it's trying to be on the. I think it's trying to say we're horror now. This is a scary moment instead of just letting the film tell itself. And I think that's the part in the script, Colin's script, was really interesting, where Vader wins. It's not that Luke wins and sees himself. It's not that Rey actually loses. It's that Kylo like really loses, and Rey kind of loses off of a jump scare, because even she's not expecting that, and Kylo loses because he's bested and he wants nothing more than to be the most powerful Sith in history. And also they talk, man, little rant here. They talk so much Sith in Rise of Skywalker. Kylo's not a Sith. He's never referred to as Darth anything. He's Kylo Ren. He gave himself that name, and he's not considered a Sith. And he does want the dark side. It would have been cool to get a little more Sith lore in there, where the Sith and the Jedi are supposed to be these kind of mystical things in the original trilogy, and then in the next trilogy, it's just everybody's like, who do you know who speaks Sith? Everybody knows about Sith, and you can make an argument that it's the underworld, so the underworld would know about some of this history stuff. But then you go and watch The Mandalorian, and people don't know what the Force is. And there are some rumors and speculations that there were people like that, because the Emperor during his heyday slandered Jedi, made it forbidden to talk about if you were of age to know what it was, and then for years controlled the galaxy and said, no, these guys never existed, they were never important, they didn't do anything, they're not real, they're fake, don't even talk about them. And that's what the Empire did. So why do all these people suddenly just know? And even Rey, I thought Luke Skywalker was a myth. This idea that a Jedi, I don't even know what that is, took down an empire. That's not real. That's a fake. That's a myth. And then later it's like, no, everybody, we know about Sith. Kind of bothers me a little bit. But anyway, Colin's script, I think, would have been really incredible. I would have loved to have seen it been made. And just to see a fresh face who doesn't have a little bit of anger towards making the movies, I think would be great. So, yeah, I guess those are my final thoughts on Colin's script. Talked about 30 minutes of it, kind of rambled through it. I do want to talk about Taika Waititi being rumored to be directing the Star Wars movie that's coming out in 2022, I believe. I'm going to take a little sip of water here in my Force Awakens cup. But I do think Taika Waititi would be fantastic to do a new Star Wars movie. I think he would knock it out of the park. I would have been worried not loving Jojo Rabbit as much as I do, because I love Thor Ragnarok. I think it's refreshing. I think it fits in the MCU. But sometimes I don't want the MCU humor, which sometimes can go rogue, like a Guardians 2, where I think Guardians 1 really works, Guardians 2 doesn't. I think I would have been nervous for Taika to bring that kind of humor into a Star Wars movie that I don't want. But then Jojo Rabbit showed me, no, he can make his humor more subtle than that, than kind of campy, which works fantastic for what he does in Thor Ragnarok. I think it didn't go the way of Guardians 2. It really ended up working. But going into a Star Wars movie, I'd be like, some of those jokes I don't need. I need in my Marvel. I don't need in my Star Wars. Or like JJ, I think in The Force Awakens got the humor, where it didn't work as much in Rise of Skywalker. I do like a lot of the jokes with Baba Freak. The C-3PO stuff did grow on me for my many viewings, but it's not my favorite stuff. But I think Taika, after Mandalorian, what he did for the final episode, as well as Jojo Rabbit, I think he showed he can do nuance, he can do... and I mean, I've seen his older movies. What was the one he made? Was it Hunt for the Wilder People, I believe he made, if I'm correct? And he can handle it. But now that I know how big of a fan he is of Star Wars, to probably seeing the backlash on Ryan and JJ now twice for two different reasons, I think Taika would approach it very well. And if Kevin Feige is producing it, I'm really intrigued. And make this a movie about a Padawan during the height of the Jedi when Yoda's training. I don't want to see like a primed up Yoda. I'm fine with baby Yoda, and well, I know it's not actually Yoda, but I'm fine with the baby version of his species, and I really love our Yoda we have. I don't really need to see much in the middle, because I like that being a mystery. But I do trust the people around it. I think Taika would be smart to talk to Favreau, to talk to Filoni, to get that kind of inside knowledge he really needs to flourish, because clearly they're friends. I would love for him to be in the movie, whether it's a CGI role or not. I think would be great. Man, I've always been a big proponent of like Kit Harington as a young Jedi training or something would be really, really cool. They might want to go even younger and go unknown, and going unknown might be smart. Will Kathleen Kennedy be on in this movie? I have no idea. There were rumors a while ago that they had their pick for their next movie locked already, and they weren't going to announce it till this year's D23, which isn't for another few months. It could be Taika, and that Taika was leaked, or it could be that they lost him and they're now interested in Taika. I don't know. I would love Taika Waititi. I'd love a Ryan Coogler. I think Denis Villeneuve is still my top choice right now. But I think you got to bring in somebody, a Taika Waititi who's a big fan. I mean, go talk to anybody outside of probably Marty Scorsese, who again I love, but go talk to most people of that age group. These newer Taika Waititi, J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, all these directors, Ryan Coogler, they all grew up with Star Wars in some way, shape, or form, and probably really enjoyed it, especially as a filmmaker, to see what the original 1977 movie did. And so I don't think getting anybody at that age group is going to do anything too harmful to the franchise. And I think something fresh would be awesome, because you can get a movie that you don't love, but because it doesn't have all the pressure of not connecting, I think it can work. A lot of people criticize Rogue One because you don't really care about the characters. You're not supposed to care about the characters in Rogue One, because you know they're going to die. That's the point. You're just in it for the ride. And I think that movie really works. But it would be cool to see giant Sith armies, giant Jedi armies, which are in the Legends were existed. In this kind of canon, we don't have that through line as much, but it would be really cool to see, see 1,000 years where it was like, man, Obi-Wan's the first Jedi to kill a Sith in 1,000 years. Let's go see when people have been killing Siths, 1,500 years ago. All the time. Let's go see that before Bane. A Bane story would be interesting. Give me a Padawan who's intertwined with Bane or Revan. Let me see the fall of the Sith. I would think that'd be a really great story. Make it about something else. Battlefront 2, I like their story. I like Iden Verso. I like that idea. I'm fine with a kind of somebody going off and doing this. Give me something that leads into why the Emperor chose to do a killing planet Death Star. Maybe that it was Bane's kind of original idea to inscribe it on a holocron, and that later Sidious finds or Plagueis finds, I think would be really interesting. And I think Taika can bring that. I think Kathleen Kennedy will be stepping down, probably. If Kathleen stays, I'm a little more nervous, just because she has been a little bit hit and miss with what she's done with the story, and Disney just doesn't really know how to handle Star Wars. It seems they kind of are fumbling a little bit, like DC did for a while, and I don't really want to see that happen anymore. I think Kevin Feige taking on full responsibility of Marvel and Star Wars would be easy. I think he's got people he trusts now in his corner for Marvel, where he doesn't need to be fully involved. And I think if you're Bob Iger, you're saying, no, please come in and fix this. Please, because he gets it. Kevin Feige gets it. You don't hear... Kathleen Kennedy doesn't go around on press tours for Star Wars. Kevin Feige did. Kevin Feige talked about, especially for the last two, the importance of storytelling and the importance of finding great filmmakers, where Kathleen didn't do that as much. Really just a D23 and maybe an interview here and there. And I'd like to see a Kevin Feige take over, and I think he wants to take over. I think he can handle it. I think he's got enough people with him to really be able to handle taking over major responsibilities for Star Wars as well. And I think he would do a great job as a producer, and I think that's why they're bringing him on as a producer, to ease him in. I think would be really interesting. Even a Filoni I wouldn't mind as a main producer. I'm not sure yet about Filoni directing, because I like that he dipped his toe in with The Mandalorian. But I like his he's got a lot of good vision on Star Wars. But I think a Kevin Feige would make sense because he's a producer who gets storytelling and gets what it takes to make these movies, make things connect, and make them work. He should have been brought in as a consultant much earlier on, especially when they brought JJ back for Ep 9, because I think Kevin would have sat JJ down and said, you can't do this, this, and this because you're mad. I get you're mad. It didn't go that way. We have to go the correct way for now the story we have. And I think that would have been really smart of Kathleen to do, would be to bring him in. And I think Taika can bring a lot of great action and a lot of great quips and do it very well. Like the droid he plays is hysterical with the Mandalorian. I think it's awesome. And I think he would have been great, or he's going to bring that kind of greatness to a Star Wars film that he does a major one. We aren't going to get it for another couple of years, which means we are going to get some significant news soon about it because they'll have to start filming soonish, within the next year if this is going to come out in 2022. They should still keep Christmas. They own all the big movie franchises with Avatar, Disney does, so let's keep it in Christmas because I don't think people want to see another big movie on the side. Let's stick to TV. It does bum me out that we didn't get the end game I wanted with Star Wars, but I do love the movie or like the movie enough. And I'm going to go on a side tangent real quick just because I'm thinking, if you're the type of person who is angry at people and refuses to just talk or speak to people because they did or didn't like a movie that you do or do not love, that's ridiculous. That is absurd. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I know people who hate Rise of Skywalker who are massive Star Wars fans. My brother who popped in the chat is one of them. I can have conversations with him. We can understand it. We don't yell at each other. We get it. We both get kind of what's happening. And we're respectful of each other. And I've met people who have told me now, I just don't know if I can even talk to you about Star Wars because we have different viewpoints, and you're an idiot for not loving Rise of Skywalker the way I do. That's idiotic. You're hiding behind false sense of nerdism, where I think people have decided that because they were a nerd and their imagination as a kid is what they know and love, that they're entitled, that's what it should be. And go watch my Why I Love Star Wars video. I love Star Wars because I love playing in somebody else's imagination. That's the best part of going to the movies in the theater. That's why I was okay watching Rise of Skywalker 4 times in the theater, and sometimes I'm thinking of going on a 5th, just because it's getting a chance to play in the world of Star Wars in somebody else's imagination. If I had wanted to make a Star Wars movie, I should have been more active as a director and a writer and gone to Hollywood to try my best to make one. That's what I should have done, and that's what I think people should have done, and you need to be kind and respect each other because people take Star Wars so intense and so serious. I love Star Wars. I've read a lot of the books. I don't love a lot of the books. I've read some people hold on to how important the Legends novels are to them. That's great for you, but don't go be angry with people who don't agree with you, because there's a lot of stuff I don't like in Legends novels, and I haven't read a lot of them. I've read a good handful, and there's some stuff I don't like. That I heard was good, and they were not good for me. There's a lot I do like. I remember there was a leak years and years ago of Luke's, or George Lucas's script for his kind of original idea for what Episode 7 would have been. And I remember reading the whole thing a couple of times and liking parts and not liking parts. I might have been a fake back then. I don't even remember. But if you don't or do like things, you gotta, Freeman Forever, hey, glad to see you. Of course you can get a shout out. You're the only one watching live. More people watch the playback for sure. We usually get a good following on the playbacks. But hey, Freeman, if you got anything you want to talk about, put it in the comments if you wanted to know my thoughts on anything. Because I probably will wrap up here soon. But if you got anything you want to talk about, let's hear it. If not, I'll just keep rambling on about Star Wars. But yeah, so I think you got to be kind to each other as fans. If you love Rise of Skywalker, that's great. I love that you love it. If you don't, that's awesome too. I think it goes both ways. And as long as you just have because one of the best things is having a discussion about Star Wars and just getting to talk and nerd out with your friends on what you loved, what you didn't love, what you wish they would have done, what you wish they didn't have done. That's the best part about it. And a lot of that doesn't exist anymore because people get so intense with it, what they demanded. And getting intense is not bad, but it's where you actually get angry and you overreact and you treat people harshly. Let's see which question is here. What do you think of the ending of Star Wars? I've talked about that a little bit in this live chat. So I'll touch on it again briefly. I think the ending is solid. Or okay. I don't love Rise of Skywalker. I liked it. I think the Return of the Jedi ending is the best ending for Star Wars so far. Um, because I don't think this new trilogy really wrapped up the other three movies. I think it wrapped, or the whole saga films. I think it wrapped up its movie, its trilogy, and I like everybody kind of together. I love the Force Ghost stuff with Rey getting up. I don't like the I'm all the Sith, I'm all the Jedi. I think it's a little cheesy. I think if you are gonna drain the life force out of him, give me an Emperor in his late 20s, primed up, shredded, a Palpatine we've never seen, whipping out a red lightsaber and having a massive battle. I think that would have been way cooler. Hey, Freeman, I'm glad you love the film. I love that you love it. And there are some awesome parts for me, too. I get it. When all the massive fleet shows up, the massive fleet for me of destroyers doesn't make sense in the story for me, but I love the visual. But I love that Lando goes and gets the people of the Republic to save the day. I think that's awesome. And I think when he shows up on the intercom and he's like, no, we haven't lost yet, and he turns around, he's this massive fleet, it gives me chills thinking about it. I think it's awesome. I love the Rey stuff, asking for, please be with me, I need your advice. I do think JJ left out a couple of Jedi that deserve to have spoken to Rey. Some pretty powerful council members. Talking about Coyote-Mundi. Should have said something, but I do like the choices that he made for the most part, and I like that. I like flying back. I like the X-Wing stuff with Luke. I think that's great. Going to the planet, I think all that is awesome. And I'm really glad you love the movie. And I hope you continue to love it. I like it. You know, I'm still going to buy it on Blu-ray. I'm still going to watch I really want to watch the documentary for this one because I want to see if they're going to talk at all about some of the decisions that JJ made. And it might shed a little bit of light on some of this Reddit stuff that has come out about JJ. But again, yeah, I thought the ending was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't go in wanting Endgame, but I was hoping they might, because they could have made it this really epic conclusion for all the movies, and it just kind of is a decent end to a good trilogy. I like this trilogy. I like all three movies at some extent. I'm gonna take a little drink of water here, but I do like all three movies to specific extents. I mean, I like all three movies more than I like Attack of the Clones, which I think is the worst of all of them. I like all three movies probably more than A Phantom Menace. I probably feel similar. I do like Rise of Skywalker more than A Phantom Menace. I think overall, I think it's a lot better. But I do think the ending is solid. But yeah, so you know what, guys, those are my thoughts. I think I'm going to wrap up here just because time's going on, and I just kind of wanted this to mainly be about Star Wars. Like, if questions came up, that would be one thing. But please, guys, I want to keep doing this weekly. I'm going to keep doing them whether people tune in to chat or not, because I just really enjoy this live stream idea. So this is where I'm going to wrap up. Guys, check everything out. Go back and watch this. As always, thanks for watching, Mom, and we'll see you guys. May the Force be with you. We gotta end this live stream here.